Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video we are going to be discussing the physical appearance and health of Sagittarius. I suggest that you watch this video if you have a Sagittarius rising, a Sag sun, a Sag moon, or if you happen to have a lot of Sagittarius within your chart. However, this video is predominantly for those who do have a Sagittarius rising. A couple of things I would like to point out before we get started. Firstly, make sure to read the description for the video because it might just possibly answer any questions that you perhaps have. And also keep in mind that many astrologers do take other factors into consideration whenever it does come to the physical appearance. Sagittarius then. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, so if you do have a Sagittarius rising, that means that Jupiter is your chart ruler. I'm gonna say Sag for a lot of this because it's just easier. Sag is a fire sign. It's also mutable energy and it is symbolized by the archer. Lastly, Sag rules the hips, the thighs, and the liver. What I'm going to be doing then is I'm going to be describing the physical appearance of Sagittarius, okay? And then I'm going to show you an image of a female Sagittarius rising and a male Sagittarius rising. And that way you can see if whatever I describe fits the bill. A great way to actually spot a Sag rising is by looking for that buzzing and that light radiance that comes from them. It's not in this centered or noble way like Leo, but rather in a more intellectual and expansive way. Think of it like a Greek philosopher who is enthusiastic and quite eager to share their wisdom and their information. They're perhaps quite attractive in this frank and youthful and this sunny manner. What's also interesting is that Sagittarians don't usually draw a line between people and ideas, and because of this sometimes they can mix them together and treat them in a similar way. Try to look for enthusiasm. However, there are the Sagittarius types who are a little bit cooler and more controlled. But even these people have that enthusiasm bubbling beneath that surface, ready to just boil over at any time and come to life. I think ultimately the way for that to come out is to, well, gain their trust. Because you see, the one who hides enthusiasm, they're usually the shyer ones. These are the types who aren't first to get noticed, but still highly intellectual. Yet at the same time, cynical, sarcastic, somewhat profoundly critical. Sure, they'll be quiet and everything, but they're still watching you, okay? They're still going over things in their minds. It is in a Sag's nature to be somewhat scruffy and unkempt. After all, the hunter usually will go home with a few scrapes. The ones who usually don't care so much about what their hair looks like, or if it's been washed today, or even if their t-shirt's wrinkled. To them, these details are just somewhat irrelevant, annoying. I'd actually notice a Sagittarius rising just playing with their hair, most unconsciously. They'll constantly just toss their hair or scoop it to the side or to the back. Oh, and when it comes to how they walk, they may be walking so gracefully and a tiny little rock will just drop them to the ground. But the funny thing about Sagittarians is that all of a sudden there is this certain want of elegance of the body that sort of approaches awkwardness. It's like they're trying to be elegant, but it looks slightly awkward. Some jokingly claim actually that Sagittarians look like horses, but this should not be taken the wrong way. Because firstly, hello, horses are beautiful. And there is indeed a noble shapely quality to the Sagittarius, having these fine and very generous proportions. So with this, Sagittarians do tend to have a tall, slender, and well-formed figure. They stand high and they walk high, just like the centaur. The centaur being one of the other symbols for Sagittarius. They even may have this tendency to just stop and slouch over as if they're grazing for grass. And their face is typically long or oval with a more rounded forehead. Their eyes as well are usually blue or hazel with a very clear complexion. Those eyes are just sparkling, they're just glowing, and more likely than not they will have quite thick hair. The colour most likely will be this brunette colour that when in the light, it turns to this golden brown or to a reddish brown tint that can be detected here. They will just possess these open features and are usually taller than average, and they're strong and active and pretty quick moving. Plus, they are known to talk with their hands, just like the Geminis. And with those hands, they do tend to be longer. Their noses as well, they're usually quite big, along with their top row teeth. The look really is jovial, and their attire is casual, but they're always in line with their generous nature. Also, the femur, or their thigh bone, is uniquely but typically long. Keyword here ultimately for the physical appearance of Sagittarius, I would say, would be, well, open. Sagittarius ascendant or rising is also extremely independent, so do not try to restrict them in any way, because if you do, they will gallop away. Moving on to the Sagittarius rising female and the Sagittarius rising male. For the Sag rising female, we're going to be looking at Scarlett Johansson. So she has the Sag rising, also a Sag sun, and lastly she's got a Scorpio moon.
Scarlett Johansson then. So I'm just going to show quickly a picture of her when she was younger and then when she was older. But you will notice that she has had a nose job, but yet still the nose is bigger. A bigger nose, like the Sagittarius risings would have. And even the teeth, the front top row teeth are quite large. You can see they're pretty big. Even the lips are so full and plump, and those eyes too. The eyes are quite sparkling. Then her face would more be on the oval side with the bigger forehead, the rounder forehead. Not to mention Scarlett Johansson has it going on in the hip and thigh compartment. Oh, she looks good. I just think ultimately with her that she has this sort of larger than life look about her.
So for the Sag male, Bruce Lee, exact same placement as Scarlett Johansson. Sag rising, Sag sun, Scorpio moon.
Okay, Bruce Lee. What I'm noticing here about him is that he has more of the longer looking face. And whilst his eyes may not be particularly sparkling, they do still look very open and genuine and almost like they can tell you many stories. Then of course he does have that very thick hair and really the bigger nose. All of his features are just more open. And even when he was alive, I mean, he was that strong, active, quick moving person. Very fast, because you'd have to be fast in order to do what he did and perform the moves that he performed. And those hands even, the hands are very, very quick.
Let's then discuss the Sagittarius health. The thing about Sagittarius is that they do possess a lot of energy and their health is quite fine. The only things that will really affect them is the overuse of their natural energy, which will possibly fry their nerves. Really, for them, they can be prone to overindulgence, which can lead to problems within their liver even. And in the long run, they can undergo these drawbacks, which are the consequence of their intense lifestyle in the areas of physical expenditure and sexuality, food, these areas. This is because of that ruling planet, Jupiter. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion, aka excess. Health concerns for them would be related with the arteries, with the blood, with the hips, the liver, and the thighs. If they can maintain a good lifestyle, they can then avoid blood pressure problems or disorders of the liver. They might also experience some problems of torn ligaments within the very thighs, so it's important that they try to avoid getting themselves into any possible accidents. Though still, I do believe that Sagittarians would be one of the healthiest of all of the signs. Because yes, Jupiter is about expansion, but at the same time, Jupiter favors the people belonging to this sign. Jupiter is also about luck, good fortune. And of course, yes, the sign does indicate a long life for these people, but to enjoy it properly, gotta be careful. Why live a long life if you can't enjoy it? You might even suffer from possible hormonal imbalances. Now, if you do happen to have Sagittarius ruling your 6th house cusp, you may be more prone to these hip and thigh problems. And I would also like to add that if you do have a Sagittarius rising, then that would mean that Taurus is on your 6th house cusp. I use the whole sign system within my readings, so even if you don't use that system, it's fine. But if you do happen to have Taurus ruling your 6th house, then it could possibly mean that you're more highly prone to these respiratory conditions, for example, asthma, as well as health concerns relating to neck problems, to thyroid problems, including even weight problems and throat issues. This is simply because, well, Taurus does rule the neck and the throat. Furthermore, if you do have Jupiter within your 6th house, some people with Jupiter in the 6th, they might burden themselves if there's far too many duties in life and leave any time aside to care for their own well-being. Yet others might become almost obsessed with their health or making their body a better vessel for the spirit. They might even undertake any new diet or technique or exercise which really promises them these heaven on earth, so to speak, bodies. It just can be two ends of the scale for these people, because there can either be the excess of food and drink or the excess of extreme health and extreme fitness. So we have this overindulgence of food and drink, but yet an overindulgence of really looking at the health and wanting to be almost perfect, so to speak. You see what I mean here? You might even find those with Jupiter in the 6th house planning their whole day. I actually happen to have a friend with a Sagittarius rising and a Sagittarius sun, and he literally takes his health very seriously. He will wake up at a certain time, he will take certain vitamins and minerals, he will only eat raw vegan, he must meditate every single day, which is something I really can learn from him here. He refuses to drink tap water, he only drinks his own filtered water, which is another thing that I do think is very, very valid. He also makes sure to lift his weights pretty regularly, and he goes to bed at a particular time. So Sagittarius, you are always on the go, and it would be reasonable to assume that you have these unlimited resources of power. You can never be still physically or mentally, and because of this you might find it hard to rest or even sleep sometimes. So try to really make the time in your full and busy schedule to get the rest that you need. Your positive mental attitude, which is a key trait of a Sagittarian, can actually really help you to overcome those times when your physical health is not quite up to standard. And this right here, this is when a good night's sleep will be invaluable to put you back on top again. Okay guys, so that concludes my video on the physical appearance and health of Sagittarius. Thank you kindly to all of my subscribers for, of course, subscribing to my channel. It's good to have you here learning along with us. And also, if you'd like to see more videos from me and you have not yet subscribed, then what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button. And I will be back with Capricorn. Only 3 signs left. Can you believe it? What? I'll be back with Capricorn very, very soon. Bye!